Hello and welcome to the program. I am Oyi Adekunle. And from the federal to the subnational governments, different security meetings are being held as part of measures to address the challenges of insecurity currently confronting Nigeria. Arising from one of such meetings, the 17 southern governors in the country have called for restructuring to address increasing agitations in different parts of the nation. The governors also resolved that open grazing of cattle be banned across southern Nigeria. Another thing the region is calling for is a national dialogue. Now, restructuring, dialogue, ban on open grazing, what difference will these make? Let's now get the thoughts of a public affairs analyst, Mr. Kachi Nwogwa, joins us now via Skype from Owerri, the Imo State capital. Mr. Nwogwa, it's good to have you again on the program. Thank you for joining us. Now, it's a
Thank you
good
very
thing,
much.
no doubt, that governors are beginning to meet now, not just the South-South or South-West, but coming together as a region to discuss security issues. Let's now get your thoughts now on the recommendations made. First of all, national dialogue. What do you make of that?
Obviously, dialogue is very important in everything we do, starting from the basic existing unit, which is the family, going all the way to national, even to the world. So dialogue is an essential part of solving any problem. Is an essential part of development. It's an essential part of getting everybody on board. So definitely, I mean, if anybody in this country today feels that if there's anybody in this country today who doesn't understand or feel that it's important to have a dialogue, I think that person obviously is not here. So it's important to have a national dialogue, and the sooner the better.
And indeed, the governors have also, reiterated calls for restructuring. A lot of times, for years now, we've had people, stakeholders talk about the need to restructure the country. And of course, the federal government has said it will not be pressurized to do so. So do you think that this is actually the time for the government to consider restructuring as a very good option or solution to insecurity?
I continue to say sometimes we make things look a little bit more difficult than than it should be because somehow, for reasons I don't know, we have made the word restructuring look like a very heavy duty, something out of the moon, something that turns us even not to become Nigeria anymore. Restructuring means changing things, you know, things in a way that makes it a little bit better for you. And if you look at this country, there are many things that need to be addressed and then restructured in some way. Let's start from, well, we're talking about security. And everybody who is somebody that I know has said this is time for this country to have something like state police. That's a restructuring. So maybe if we keep using the word restructuring, maybe that's where some people are looking like they want to resist, or maybe something difficult to start. Can we please begin to structure ourselves? Maybe that's a better way to put it, in things and correct our errors, make ourselves more efficient. Introducing things and amending the ways we do things, including our constitution, the relevant portions, to be able to enthrone these things that we know work in other places that we ourselves have said will work, and are even in some ways trying to achieve. Every state is running a vigilante service. It's just a makeshift thing. But what is that? It's not some kind of state police. Why don't we give it a proper accent so it can get support? It can properly integrate with the existing security system and make the best out of everything that comes. Yes, very much yes to restructuring, and if that sounds too complicated and too difficult, we can leave the word restructuring and go straight to the ingredients that we're talking about that we need to structure or correct or amend. Definitely we need to do this.
And let me just read out a portion of part of the points that the governors made at the end of their meeting, and that they recommended that in deference to the sensitivities of various people, that there is need to review appointments into federal government agencies to reflect federal character, as Nigeria's overall population is heterogeneous. Now, what do you make of that? There's been a lot of talks about appointments into federal government agencies of late. So do you that the governors are now coming out to say it? They're bringing it up again within themselves. What exactly do you make of that?
What I make of it see, I once worked in the Federal Character Commission. All right, I once had a role to play there, and federal character is law. It's not really an option. It's law, and we're supposed to follow it. The governors are simply saying follow the law and apply equity anyway. So, for anybody to be made to feel unequal or not part of the federation or not properly considered, that's bad enough. And let me say this: when you hear Southern governors calling for that today, that call is for everybody, both North and South. Because tomorrow, you don't know what the situation is going to look like. You don't know who's going to be the one agitating. So if we correct those things today and make us live the way we should live, make us have equal representation, it is win-win for everybody at the end of the day. Because if we are saying that anybody can simply be anyone, violate, maybe, who knows, I may be president tomorrow and decide that every single minister will come from my state. I'm just taking it to the extreme so that people can understand the meaning of this. So we are trying to make this work for everybody. It's necessary. It's something of a shame, though, that we have to wait, get into a crisis, have the Southern governors meet and begin to call for it. Ab initio, this ought to have been all the time. And please, for everybody, and at every unit and at every level, even inside the states, everywhere, anybody who is not abiding by this principle is not getting it right. The Southern governors are definitely right in that matter.
And speaking of this issue of insecurity generally now, particularly in the Southeast, a lot of people have said that this unrest that we're witnessing in that part of the region, or of the country rather, may not be, or may be connected to the 2023 presidency. So now my question is, do you really think that there is a political undertone to these attacks, or these are just acts of violence by secessionist campaigners?
My dear, if a snake gets into your house, do you want to find out first whether your neighbor let it in, or whether your child left the door open, or what do you do with the snake? You have to find and kill it first and foremost. So all these questions we're asking now are totally irrelevant. What is relevant now is that we have found there's a situation. That situation needs to be arrested, and all hands need to be on deck to arrest that situation. When you do that, if there are any tendencies that are bringing them up, those tendencies will begin to reveal themselves. In fact, in the course of fixing this, you begin to find things you will also need to correct. I don't want us to, because those things are very diversionary. We can spend all the time trying to...
But would you say it is irrelevant? It would be very important for... I'll disagree with you when you say these questions are irrelevant, because it's important to find what the root cause of the problem is. Or don't you think so?
What we have identified is a problem. We have identified that there are arms in people's hands. We have identified that bad people are attacking security formations, destroying police stations, and killing security men. We have identified that some people want to make this place to be without security so that the hoodlums can take complete control. Please, my dear, how relevant is it to find out, or to begin to look to find out which political party those hoodlums belong to? How relevant is it to begin to... So I don't think that... every question is relevant to an extent. But what I'm saying is that you have an emergency situation. What is important now is to quell this situation. When you quell this situation, whatever tendency that exists there would have been quelled at the same time, or exposed in the course of doing that. That is what I mean. What I'm saying is that if we continue to divert our attention to speculations and conjectures and drawing lines, networking things, connecting things that may not even connect at the end of the day, well, except you're showing me how that is helping to stop that immediate problem now. We have loose people on the streets with guns. You know, and by the way, this place, the Southeast, where I live and work and do a lot of things, is not a place that is prone to insecurity, the way it's being projected. If some things have gone wrong, and I believe that those things can be nipped in the bud if we pay the right attention, and if we can take partisanship out of this on all sides. Because the bullets I am sure, cannot decide to differentiate between one political tendency or the other. I'm very sure of that. When you go to the police station and kill people and burn it, how do you know where the people that you killed come from and what their inclination is? When bombs are detonated, they don't know who is who. So I think we should not distract ourselves. And I think that those who are doing this actually would want us to distract ourselves, trying to make politics out of it and begin to even fight and kill the rest of us, kill each other, rather than kill the enemy. I think we're actually playing into the hands of the real enemy, by trying to infuse politics into it. The worst thing you can do to a security problem is to politicize it. I wish we would not go that way at all.
And lastly, Mr. Nwoga, before I let you go now, if eventually the federal government decides to take some of the points that have been raised by this governor, say for instance now national dialogue, what issues are you expecting to be raised when eventually the country decides to embrace a dialogue?
The Southern governors have said have said one thing. They said, look at how appointments are talking about. They even mentioned about the sharing of the federation resources, in terms of FAC and stuff like that. I know that they talk about FAC, which is making the center too heavy and weakening the branches, has been on for a long time. I personally think that it doesn't help for development when the center is too heavy. The federal government is running some secondary schools in some areas, secondary education being run by federal government. I don't know how many places in the world that is happening. Those kind of things are not helpful. So it's when the federal government is carrying too much, they begin to dissipate it on some of those things. If you're talking about real heavy interstate infrastructure, that's the kind of thing to be able to develop basic programs for our people, local programs for our people. And they will definitely need more money to do that. Let the states take a huge chunk of the security in their hands, and they will be able to do better, much, much better. As a matter of fact, you bring the security down to even localities and community. Community policing hasn't shown to work everywhere in the world. How do you do that when even the police in the community is sent from the federal government and transferred across states and everywhere? So those things don't really work. That's what we're talking about in the dialogue. The dialogue starts from those common things that will better every Nigerian everywhere they are, make us more efficient as a country, help to develop our people and our economy, secure us so that we can think about other things. If we can even do those ones, I can tell you that we've done 75% of the problem.
Well, Mr. Kachi Nwogwa, Public Affairs Analyst, we thank you very much for speaking to us on Analysis. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Well, take a short break here, and when we return, we'll be talking about something different now, about the imposition of COVID-19 restrictions in the country. Stay with us, don't go away. Welcome back. COVID-19 restrictions have been reintroduced across the country as part of control measures to mitigate the impact of the new variants of the disease should they be imported into Nigeria. In the announcement made by the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19, mass gatherings in public spaces have been restricted to 50 people, while bars and nightclubs are to remain closed. Meanwhile, there are also reports that this, according to the government, is to ensure that the new strains of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is currently ravaging India, does not find its way into the country. But joining me now to discuss more on this is Dr. Nsiabasi Ekanem, a public health expert. Dr. Ekanem, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Now, first of all, I want to get what you think of these new restrictions that have been brought by the government. I mean, many people did not see it coming. At the time when it was announced, or even up till now, we're still recording, we've seen a significant drop in the number of positive cases, daily positive cases. So what exactly do you make of these new restrictions?
the new protocols that have been stipulated by the government is a very critical response strategy to ensure that we reduce the community spread of COVID-19 virus. We could recall that sometime like this last year, we had the first few cases of the virus in Nigeria, and it continued to spread because at that time we were not able to roll out measures, to reduce community transmission. Now, given the fact that there is a new strain in India that is ravaging the country with a higher mortality rate and a higher, transmissibility, it's only wise that as a country uh, we take adequate measures to prevent, the transmission of this virus. We know that Nigeria and India, and of course Brazil and Turkey, and other countries where this new strain has been found, have this trade relationship, and people are likely to travel from those countries to Nigeria. So it's important that we strengthen surveillance, right? Because according to the World Health Organization, over 44 countries of the world have already, been plagued with this new variant. So it's important that we, from the port of entry, even around the country itself or within the country, that we strengthen measures, to stop the transmission of the virus. One of those measures, of course, will definitely be having variant-specific, machines that will not only test for the presence of COVID-19 virus, but also the presence of a particular strain. So we'll not only know whether that person is infected with the virus, but we'll know the particular strain, so that if we identify the Indian strain, we can isolate the person and ensure that the person is being monitored closely within the period. Now, this will help us to reduce the transmission of the new variant to other people, because being infected with the previous variant does not stop a person from being infected with the new one. At the same time, taking AstraZeneca vaccine does not also stop a person from contacting the new variant.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's need for us to strengthen the public health measures. I know that a lot of Nigerians are really tired. They are having this fatigue, maybe information overload, and they are fed up. They are tired of the whole thing, whether it's wearing of a mask or social distancing, and sometimes the use of hand sanitizer. Many Nigerians are already
And now,
getting
sorry to
fatigued.
cut you, Dr. Ekanem, you just said that a person who has received the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, it doesn't mean that the person cannot contract the new variants. Man, you don't think that this is disturbing, don't you think? Oh, for people who, as you rightly said, a lot of people are fatigued. And then hearing again that vaccination does not prevent the new strain from spreading, where does that leave us?
Okay, well, the truth is this. We never said that the vaccine will stop a person from being infected. But here is the good news. The vaccine would stop a person who is infected from progressing to the severe cases. And if you know very well about the Indian strain is associated with severe, respiratory syndrome, which leads to death. And that's why India is recording over 4,000 deaths every single day. So if you have taken the vaccine, the AstraZeneca vaccine, that means that your risk of developing severe symptoms if you are infected with the Indian strain is very, very low. And that means that the likelihood of recovery will be much higher in persons who have taken the vaccine compared to those who have not taken. So that means that with people who have not taken the vaccine, the virus has its full force. All right. So to us, it presents a very huge benefit. So people should look at that benefit and then understand the fact that though you can be infected with the virus, but because you have taken the vaccine, it will not progress into the severe, acute respiratory syndrome, which can lead to death. So that's, for me, is a very great advantage, and that's what we should have at the back of our mind.
Let's look at some of the challenges posed by this Indian variant now to the global fight against the pandemic. I mean, we've had the first, second, in some places they're already talking about third and fourth wave. Particularly for Africa, where we've seen a situation where not every country have had access to the vaccine. So now, new strain, lack of access to vaccine. How bad do you see things getting, particularly for Africa, where there's been some sort of delay in distributing vaccines?
Well, the truth is that it presents a very, very dicey situation here. As much as we know that even the vaccine that we are taking, the AstraZeneca vaccine, is produced in India. So it becomes a challenge for us because while we were looking forward to more doses coming in, now that India, where these vaccines are produced, is hit heavily by the pandemic, it becomes a challenge. And again, scientists are also working around the clock to assess whether the new strain, or rather the AstraZeneca vaccine that we're taking can cover or protect a person from developing severe symptoms following the infection with the new strain. Preliminary reports show that there might be some level of, immunity or coverage, but then we might need to wait and see what's going on before we can conclude on that. Now, the truth is that globally, the development of the Indian strain is placing a huge challenge of some possibly a setback because while countries were thinking that they are making a lot of progress in terms of eliminating the previous strains that we had. Now we have this new strain, and this new strain is a double mutant, meaning that the spike on the protein spike on the virus itself has mutated twice, and that makes it more virulent, that makes it more deadly, and the rate of transmission of this new variant is much higher. And so it is already mounting a huge pressure on the healthcare system of not just African countries, but other countries of the world, even in India. The system is crashing already. So it's a very big challenge then. But the truth is this: viruses will always mutate. New variants will always evolve. But then the only way we can end this whole menace is to reduce the risk of transmission, is to reduce the rate at which the virus moves from one person to the other. Because according to science, when virus moves from one person to the other, the risk of developing new strains increases. So the earlier we can stop the transmission of the virus globally, the better for us. It's not just Africa, because I tell you what, if Africa is plagued tomorrow, the whole world will soon be plagued. It only takes one country to move the virus across. This virus started in some way in China, and today the whole world is suffering it. So it is something that the entire globe must work together to support every country and see how we can adopt stringent measures to eliminate this. And the best thing we can do is to abide or adhere to the public health measures. I'll say this and say it again. The vaccine does not guarantee that anyone will not be infected. No. So while we take the vaccine, let us also go ahead and still obey or adhere to the safety precautions, because it is only that composite approach that will help us eliminate this pandemic.
Well, Dr. Nsia Abasi-Ekanem, public health expert, always a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you very much for making these clarifications on analysis. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Father.
Well, that's it on this episode of the program. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time. I am Oyi Adekunle. Bye for now.